I'm Helen from Heritage Garden Seeds, and in this video I'm going to show you how to sow your beetroot seeds. So you can successionally sow beetroot from spring to around about midsummer. Now beetroot just need temperatures of around 8 degrees Celsius to germinate, so if you are sowing early in the season we would recommend that you sow your beetroot seeds under cover, so in a greenhouse or something. If you do want to direct sow, then we would recommend that you sow your beetroot and then just cover the soil with a fleece or a cloche. Obviously, if you're sowing earlier in the season, it's a good idea to try and warm up your soil first. So if you are sowing into modules like me, I've just taken my compost indoors for a day or so just to kind of bring that to room temperature. And if you are going to sow outside direct into the ground, then just make sure you cover that soil with a fleece or cloche for a few days before sowing, just to warm the temperature of the soil up a little bit. So like I say, I'm going to sow my beetroot into modules. I really like this method. I find it for me just a lot easier to sow it into modules, pop it in the greenhouse at home, and then I can just keep an eye on the seeds as they germinate, and then I can transplant them to the allotment once they're a little bit bigger. I'm just going to make a little dimple into each cell. And then it's really up to you. You can either sow one seed per cell, or I actually find a really good method is to multi-sow. So I'm going to sow 2 or 3 beetroot seeds into each of these cells, and that way they can just grow together. And then I'm just going to cover those with a light layer of compost. To pop my little plant label in and give them a gentle water. So by multi-sowing my beetroots, I am going to get slightly smaller bulbs than if I had sown them individually, but I find that they grow really, really well together if you multi-sow. But like everything, you can just do whichever works best for you. Now if you prefer to direct sow your beetroot, then you just want to make sure that your growing area is weed free. Like I say, if you are sowing early in the season, do make sure that you just warm that soil up a little bit by covering it with a fleece or a cloche, just to try and increase that temperature. And then you just want to make a nice shallow drill into the soil and then scatter your beetroot seeds along that drill a couple of centimetres apart. You just want to backfill with a thin layer of soil and then water the area well, and then again just cover those seeds with a fleece or a cloche while they germinate. And it just helps to protect them from the cooler temperatures as well if you are sowing earlier in the season. Obviously if we're a bit further on in the season, you don't need to worry about covering them up too much, although I do find that the pigeons enjoy nibbling at the leaves, so you might want to keep those covered with some netting. So for my module sown beetroot, I'm just going to grow these on in the greenhouse, and then once the seedlings are large enough to handle, I'm just going to take the whole cell and then transplant that into the ground at the allotment. I'm going to space the plants around about 10 centimetres apart, and then I'm just going to make sure that I keep that growing area weed free and well watered throughout the season. And then we can harvest our beetroot from summer right through to autumn. The best size is when the bulbs are between golf ball and tennis ball size. So if you've sown your beetroot individually, you'll just be able to carefully lift those from the ground. And if you have multi-sown like me, it's best just to take maybe 1 beetroot from each little bulb and just give it a gentle twist so that you're not disturbing the other bulbs too much. So it really could not be easier to sow beetroot, and like I say, you can successfully sow this from spring right through to about midsummer, so you will never be without delicious homegrown beetroot. I hope you've enjoyed this video, but if you do have any questions at all, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. The best place is always on Instagram. The Instagram handle is @heritagegardenseeds, or you can get me on email. The email address is hello@heritagegardenseeds.com.